We're here with Travis from RUPES talking about their machine polishers, their compounds, and their pads. Travis, thanks for coming on.
Yep, thanks for having me, man.
I would love to learn more about RUPES, a little bit about the history of the company, what you guys are all about.
Sure. So it's a family-owned company formed in Italy, headquartered in Milan, Italy, actually, and founded in 1947. So a lot of people in the United States aren't familiar with the name, perhaps, but the company's actually been around for many years, over 75 years now. As far as our presence in the United States, we've been in the U.S. for roughly about 6 years. And when we entered this market, we really had a focus on the high-end detailing market. But really what we have now are options and solutions for the high-end detailers, the kind of more volume detailers, and also the more enthusiast level detailers as well.
Great, thanks for sharing that. As you'll see, there's quite the array here of different styles, sizes, and we're going to get all into that. And we also, I'm loving the new product line here, the new shapes and sizes, and we're going to get into all of that. Talk a little bit about what you've really seen change over these last couple of years. Obviously 2020 has been a different year for most, but what have you really seen in terms of evolution of the RUPES line?
Yeah, difference one word to describe it for sure. But since the Bigfoot line was actually introduced in 2010 in Italy, we've had quite a few changes. If you look at this tool here, a 15 ES tool, the ES model tools are an example of the original tools from the Bigfoot lineup. Since then, there's actually been 3 iterations of 3 different updates to those tools. So we've increased the power, we've improved the balance, we've improved overall efficiency within the tools over those past 10 years. So it's been exciting to see kind of where we started and really how much success the brand has had early, then to see where we are now and where things have really evolved and really to see where we're at.
Yeah, and that's great. So I think what I love most about the brand, and I'm a RUPES fan myself.
Good.
I own quite a bit of these. I just love the ease of use, and
Sure.
I think that's a scary thing coming into, oh my God, I'm an enthusiast, I've never picked up a machine like this, and the days of rotary versus orbital, all
Sure.
of that. So maybe let's talk about that, rotary versus orbital. Let's talk about, especially what we see in front of us here a little bit.
Yeah, so obviously we do have a rotary option for the people that are fond of a rotary, like that quick cutting ability, and maybe working on an application that actually requires a little bit more heat, i.e. something maybe in aviation or marine. But also we have the random orbital options as well. And really why random orbital has become so successful over the years is because really, like you mentioned, anyone can pick up this tool and get amazing results. My background personally, I came from the high-end detailing background. I started with a tool that many people had years and years ago, 8mm throw, a little rough thing, and did some work, and I thought, oh man, I'm really crushing. I'm king detailer out here with my tool. But where we've gone with the technology and with the products that we have, both in terms of compounds, polishes, pads, and obviously the tool itself, is really anyone can get their hands on one of these tools and get great results.
I see a lot of cords here. I see some cordless and also some air powered.
Correct.
So talk a little bit about the difference there.
Yeah, so obviously we make pneumatic, battery powered, and obviously your typical 120 volt powered tools as well. Pneumatic wise, we see a lot of this stuff typically in the PBE or the body shop world, but there are a lot of detailers that are also using pneumatic in their shops. This tool specifically, the LHR75, this is an incredibly powerful tool. This is actually one of my favorite tools in our entire lineup. This thing will run at 11,000 orbits per minute at a 15mm orbit and absolutely rip defects out. So it's really cool, really powerful tool, but a lot of us detailers, if we're focusing specifically on that occupation, we don't have ample air supply. Or we're working mobile, so that's not really a great option. But typically we have a generator. Typically we're working at our own shop, or we're working at a customer's garage or their location where with a 29.6 foot cord, we're going to be able to plug right into some outlet somewhere and have power. Or for our smaller stuff, we have lithium ion power tools where we can take this thing, work in our smaller nooks and crannies, or also what we can do, bring that thing to the inside of the vehicle and polish some of those piano black plastics that we might have and some of those other glossy trim items that are usually difficult to polish.
Definitely. All right, let's take a little closer look at some of the pads and the compounds. All right, let's take a closer look at the compounds and the pads this time.
Sure.
I think the first thing we need to talk about is the color coding system.
Yeah, so the color coding system is nothing new for RUPES. I mean, really over the past 10 years since we introduced the Bigfoot system, so the system being tool, pads, and compounds, we've always had a color-coded system. Really where the DA system, which you see in front of you here, really why that's exciting, is what we did is we took a lot of products and made it a lot more simple to understand what products to use on what pads to use on what tool, and so on and so forth. If we look back, the products that we had were these for Mille, these for Random Orbital, then you also had Mille, which is our gear-driven tool, had its own set of pads. Random Orbital had its own set of pads. It also had a green pad, so you had all these different products. Now all we need right here is our DA system. So DA stands for dual action, of course. So these products are designed to work on either a Random Orbital tool like the LHR21 you see right there, or a gear-driven Mille tool, or any gear-driven that might be on the market. So in addition to our DA compounds, we still do have compounds and polishes that are made specifically for a rotary movement. Since this tool is a single axis tool, spins in a circle, it tends to generate a lot of heat into the paint and the substrate, and also warms up those products and pads in a different manner as well. So the pads and the compounds require different specifications to them to work properly.
So Travis, I also noticed that the pad shape and design has changed as well. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. So the shape has definitely changed. So the previous generation of our foam pads was more of this kind of tapered straight edge design, which worked very well for a long time. However, we've come a long way in different technology and manufacturing processes that we can make a pad that's kind of more above and beyond, and it's going to be a little bit more efficient for us. So now what you'll see on these pads is more of this contoured design. So not only do we have a change in the actual shape of the pad, but the composition of a couple of these pads is actually brand new as well. So a lot of people that are familiar with maybe say our blue foam pad are probably familiar with some of the difficulty you would have priming with that pad, maintaining a longer life cycle out of that pad. The new blue foam pad is a completely brand new composition of foam, obviously with the new shape as well. However, the pad is now much more easy to prime. It's much more easy to get into contours with. It also cuts better and finishes better. Yellow, believe it or not, is actually the same composition, the same formula of foam, which is great because it's one of those ideas of if it's don't broke, don't fix it, right? No need to fix it because the thing works fantastic. What you will notice on the yellow foam pad now is obviously the new contour, but also a little bit more of a vibrant color to it.
So I still have all the old pads. Do I need to throw them out and go to these, or can I mix and match?
You've already paid for them. They're expired. Toss them.
Oh,
You gotta buy all brand new stuff and only buy the case because that's the only way that anything works. I mean, of course not. The pads still work. They still work fantastically. The new generation of pads are just going to help, again, more kind of the ease of priming, the lifespan of the pad use. And they're just going to get you a more efficient and effective result, especially when they're combined with our DA system products.
So let's talk about the polish next. I love the color coding system. It was really easy to get started in this, but I noticed this white bottle here, I don't have this at all.
Sure.
So maybe let's just touch on this for a little bit.
Yeah, so you'll notice on that bottle it says uno, right?
Uno.
Which is one in either Italian or Spanish and maybe a couple other language. I'm not sure. I'm pretty monolingual. However, what that means is one, right? So it's one product that can be used across any movement of tool. So whether that's a rotary style movement, a gear-driven style movement, or a random orbital style movement, that product can be used on any of those motions. So we do have a product that's called Uno Protect, and that's our one-step polish and protectant or sealant, which is a fantastic one-step product. However, this product, Uno Pure, is primarily used for high-end, ultra-fine polishing applications. So in situations when you're dealing with really finicky paint, maybe stuff that if it's a repaint is on the fresher side, or even just OEM paint that's very, very soft and a darker color typically, where you're really trying to get those final high-end results, that's a product that's going to get you there. And also with the name Uno Pure, we're talking about practically zero fillers in the stuff. There's really no fillers in any of our products. There's nothing in any of our products that are meant to fill other than Uno Protect, which is obviously a wax or sealant, so that's into kind of a different category. But when you talk about Uno Pure, it's as pure as we could possibly get as far as leaving no residue, no oils or anything behind after your wipe down. So that will help you get that great final result and get you ready for if you're doing your ceramic coating or you're putting a sealant or a wax or a glaze or whatever it might be on the vehicle.
So lastly, what I would like to talk about is any tips or tricks or anything that you see that has come up, frequently asked questions, really to kind of take the person that's working with all of these products to the next level.
Yeah. Really where we see people getting lost is typically right at the beginning, and they're not priming the pads properly. So what we used to recommend with our foam pads was really more of a dot technique, where depending on the pad size, we put 3 or 4 dots on the pad, put the pad on the paint, turn it on for a couple seconds, let the pad warm up and kind of accept the product, and then put our working product on there and kind of go to town. It's still similar with the foam pads, and it's not necessarily as important as the wool pads, which we'll get to. But on the foam pads, now we're recommending is more taking the pad and actually drawing an X on the pad, then putting the pad down on the paint. Again, holding it down for 15, 20, 30 seconds, depending on a lot of other varying factors. But letting that pad warm up, letting the product kind of get into the pad, then putting our working product on and going from there. And what I mean by working product is still that 2 dots. With our system, just as it was with our older system, the DA system is the same way, where in many cases less is more. We don't want to be oversaturating these pads. Now, with wool pads, I feel it's even more important to make sure that they're properly primed. A lot of times what we'll see, and where some people get into some trouble, is they'll take a wool pad, again, they'll put a couple globs on here, and they're going to put it on the paint, turn it on, and try to prime it just the way that we're with the foam pads. But we need to remember, with a microfiber or a wool-based pad, this pad and those fibers want to grab and hold onto that product. So after we put our dots on there, we put our globs of product down, we turn it on, try to get the thing primed. If we flip it over and look at it, there's going to be very little migration of product on that pad, and we're going to have a lot of dry spots. So really the best way to prime a microfiber or a wool-based pad is to just get the product on there in a thin layer and spread it out. There's many different ways to do that. You can put some product on there and spread it around with one of our claw tools, or you can do what I like to do is just do a very thin spiral of product all across the face of the pad, then put the pad down on the paint, turn the tool on for about 15-20 seconds, flip it over, make sure you got a good coating of product, again, not saturated, less is more, still with a wool-based pad, and then put your working product on, 2 dots, go to town, get those defects out, have it shiny, have it glossy, get it down the road.
All of these products that you see here are available online at clean-garage.com, as well as in store. Both all of the pads, the machines, and the polishes you see here, all available.
Good, clean fun.
So Travis, I noticed that the shape of the pads have recently changed as well. Can we talk about that?
Sure. Previously...